because when you are in your Zen state, you can woo-saw this motherfucker like nobody business, and then you can play the music.
This is Monty in the Morning, the show Phoenix Magazine readers voted #1 talk radio show in Arizona.
#1 during your morning commute.
#1 whenever news breaks during your day.
And #1 whenever and wherever you want to talk sports.
Now it's time for Monty in the Morning.
Hell yeah, 24/7, 365, the Monty Show. That's us. Hello, buddy.
Hello.
Good to see you. Happy Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. It is already April. Unbelievable. Chicago PD is back tomorrow with a new episode.
Yeah, SRT Jeeps and Chargers and stuff.
Bitches, what? You're right now, you're #1, your favorite show on TV right now. Go into it. You're watching what?
The Utah Jazz.
You're such a dick. F1 Drive to Survive, which you are no longer watching.
Honestly, I don't watch TV shows. Seriously.
You don't watch TV shows?
No, because what TV shows do I have time to watch? Seriously.
Okay, well, if you would discipline yourself, you could do the things that I do, which is be married and have degenerate children who don't discipline themselves.
Right.
But I make time to get exposed to other things. Like, stop. Just stop it. Not everything has to be about sex,
I
sir.
didn't say anything. What?
Donnie, please.
What?
Man. Anyway, I exposed myself to John Oliver in Last Week Tonight, which is to say I watched that nude.
Last night, did you watch anything besides basketball?
Yes, I watched the first 10 minutes of the basketball game, flipped on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, and then came back and watched the final 5 minutes of the first half and the entire second half.
Okay. See, that's the difference.
Yeah, but see, I watch things like the news. I watch things like Chicago PD, the news. I watch things like Chicago PD. I watch things like Drive to Survive. I watch things like Gold Rush on Friday night. I try to get other forms of entertainment so that I am a well-rounded motherfucker. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, wow, yep.
That's why we have great affiliate links in the description below, both on this podcast and on the YouTube machine. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you click the description. Check out our affiliate links. All of our, like yesterday, I was having a conversation with a couple of dudes about the vitamins that I take every day. People are like, hey, you're such a fat ass. No, one guy asked me, I actually got a compliment yesterday, if you can believe it, on Instagram DMs. A guy who shall remain nameless because he asked to be so.
A boy has no name.
Said to me, well, hey, I've noticed you've lost a bunch of weight. What are you doing? And so we were talking about it. And I said, by the way, I also think that you have to take like your plant sterol supplements and your CoQ10s. Those are in the affiliate links. I found the greatest tool to wash glasses and cups because I use a ton of these little dudes right here. Blender bottles, and they can be difficult to clean. But there's a little tool that you put on your sink. What? I'm an overhand guy. Anyway, there's a tool you put on your sink, you know. So that's in the affiliate link below. And by the way, we are giving away a PlayStation 5 on this very program. All you have to do is like and subscribe. By the way, did you get any DMs about the shirts yesterday?
Nope.
Not a single one yesterday.
Nope.
Like 10 of you MFers asked me, well, hey, how do I buy a shirt? I want that casual shirt.
And I'll check again. Let me check again real quick.
Because all you have to do is DM Jake, SLC Supercars on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And yes, 3 people also yesterday said, hey, man, you promised us like 2 months ago you were going to have stickers. You're right. I have totally dropped the ball. We said we were going to get stickers, and we haven't done it, so we might do that as well. And then again,
I ain't got requests, man.
And then again, we might not. So, yes, if you want to buy a T-shirt, it gets you 5-to-1 entries. That's totally up to you. I think we're down to like 10 or 15 shirts left. So hook it up. DM Jake at SLC Supercars. All right, let's talk about the Utah Jazz because the Memphis Grizzlies are in town tonight. And as we titled this show, I'm a firm believer that this Utah Jazz team is at a crossroads. And when I say that, what I mean is it's now or never for this club. And I don't think they're falling out of the top 6. I don't think they're going into the play-in tournament, but that's just me. But what this Memphis Grizzlies team represents is a mirror into which the Jazz see who they should be versus who they are. Because when you look at the Memphis Grizzlies, they're young, they're aggressive, they're athletic, they shoot the three, they run the floor, and they play tenacious defense. Isn't that what we all thought this Utah Jazz team was going to turn into? But yet they haven't, because they haven't done well in free agency and they haven't drafted well. So, Jake, am I off on that? Do you believe that this Memphis Grizzlies team is who the Utah Jazz would love to be?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think they would love to be in a similar situation to Memphis. I think that, if we, as they say in The Dark Knight, if we wind the clocks back a year and we look at that postseason series last year in round one where the Jazz played the Grizzlies, a lot of Jazz fans are like, oh, well, this should be a gimme. And, we had that Don ankle situation.
That Don ankle
yeah,
situation.
Where Don was like, hey, I can play. And the Jazz staff was like, no, you can't play. And then Don ended up playing. And it turns out he shouldn't have played. They go through that whole thing. And a lot of fans were like, hey, we're way better than Memphis is, even though at the time you were pretty even. And now it's kind of like the roles have reversed. Memphis is way better than you are. And tonight will be very interesting to see because my firm belief is tonight this will be a pretty close game, but Memphis wins it. They edge out the Jazz, in my opinion. I just think they have more quality. They're a better team. They're playing better basketball, more importantly, right now. So I do think Memphis wins the game, but I think that's not really the point of tonight's game. The point of tonight's game is to see what this Jazz team can put out on the floor. Because what did we get yesterday out of the local media and the storylines and the usual suspects who report on the Jazz, as you all know and love them? Well, what we get is Jordan Clarkson saying that the team met and got off their chest what was bothering them and holding them down. And basically they, the vibes are good again, as Joe Ingles would say, right? So to me, tonight, what this is about is coming out and seeing a complete 48-minute performance. I had a guy on Twitter yesterday, Mike, I believe it was, tweeted me that, there was a picture, like a graphic put out of, what the Jazz record would be if NBA games ended after 3 quarters, and they'd be like the number 1 team in the league, and they'd have 55 wins. And that's all fine and dandy, and I understand why people put that out, but my point is they don't end after 3 quarters, and it is a 48-minute game, and you do have to put together a complete performance. So that's what I'm looking for tonight. Even if you lose by 5, let's say, I want a complete, consistent performance, front to back, coast to coast. That's what I'm looking for tonight. I want less turnovers. I want more movement of the basketball. And I don't want movement of the basketball and the pick and roll to disappear when you get adversity against the Grizzlies. That's what I'm looking for tonight. I'm not even looking for a win or a loss. A win would be nice, definitely. But I want this team to come out and execute. Because you're 100% right. This team is at a crossroads right now, which is to say you're either gonna fold, you're gonna go out in the first round, and it's gonna be an embarrassing thing for your squad. Or you're going to fight like hell, and you'll make it through to the second round, and you'll probably get eliminated in the second round, but at least it'll feel a little better. That's where you're at right now, And so I feel like this team, what we heard yesterday, essentially, without saying it specifically, this team said, hey, we got everything off our chest. We put that behind us. We're moving all together we're moving forward together as a club. That's basically what we heard Jordan Clarkson say. So I'm going to look for that tonight. I want better basketball out of this team tonight.
Well, and I was told yesterday at practice that they basically hit the reset button, that the Utah Jazz have come to a place where they've said, you know what? We've got 4 games left to show, what we can do and bring ourselves back together as a club. Does that work? If you win tonight, it absolutely works. If you lose tonight by 20 to Memphis, I don't think that works at all.
It's more of the same.
And it's more of the same, and the issues that have persisted with this ball club continue. I think that's likely the scenario that will happen. But I don't know. I think that this team is and has the capability of being really good. But I don't know that they're capable of being really good right now. I think that they don't believe in each other. I think they don't like each other. I think that they are in a place where when you struggle, and I think this is applicable to all of us, whether you're, like and I think Greg Hawkins is in here today, whether you're an actor on a movie set
Yeah.
or you are a salesperson at a major tech company.
Yep.
If you don't like the people that you're working closely with, the job is not going to be fun.
Yeah.
It is going to become a 9 to 5 instead of a passion of yours.
Well, it's culture amongst your team and your people.
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
that Rudy, again, and I don't want to do this today. I really don't want to have the Rudy versus Don and the battle that goes on between those two. But when we're talking about team culture, and I look around the league, I think like if we look at Memphis, I think that's one of the reasons they're so successful right now. That team has been through the ringer, man. That team did get knocked out by the Jazz last year. Ja Morant did get let down. Ja Morant did step up this year, Bane has come through and upped his game. You've got Jaren Jackson Jr. that has upped his game, and those guys have come together. And you can see what happens on the floor when a team is playing together. Like, it's one of the reasons the Suns are so good right now, because they're all pushing in the same direction. DeAndre Ayton didn't let the fact that he wasn't going to get paid by the Suns and get that huge contract bother him or tear him down. What he did is he decided to go out and play good basketball, And so when I look at this Jazz team, it's great to say, hey, at practice yesterday, we put it behind us. We're back on the same page. Everything is good. Tonight, I want to see Donovan Mitchell kicking it to Bogdanovich for an open three in the corner that he's going to make 4 out of 10 times. I want to see Jordan Clarkson come into the game for 10 to 15 minutes at a time and not turn the basketball over and move the ball. Like, we need to see these things.
Yeah, I just think you need to get back to playing good basketball tonight. That's it. That's how you fix this. That's how you evolve past this. I mean, you're not the Lakers, and the doomsday clock that is perceived to be ticking on this Utah Jazz team, I think the drama is why you're seeing that. This is not a bad ball club. This is a ball club that's struggling. This is a team that I don't think knows how to win games. And I think it's aging. I think it's past its prime. And I think it needs a retool. But we've been saying that I think this is the third year where we've talked about you need an influx of new talent into this roster. And every day that you don't get that, it's going to be a longer day at the office. Mm-hmm. That's what it comes down to. But this idea that there is, the world is ending, this team sucks. This team is what it's been for the last 10 years. It's no better and it's no worse. They're just another team right now. They're not special. They're not unique. And frankly, you're starting to see a lot of the moles on the face of the Utah Jazz because losing brings out the worst in people. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is we're going to have a conversation about money today in our non-sports stuff. And it's really apropos to this Jazz team. You found out who Rudy Gobert really was when you handed him $200-something million a year. And you said, here's $41 million a year.
Money changes people.
But I actually don't think money changes people. I think money defines and exposes who you really are. And I think that's what you're seeing with this Jazz team. You have a bunch of guys in, Conley Clarkson, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, who all got paid. And I think everybody thought that everything would just fall into place and you would tip one domino over and the whole row would go. Well, it doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. It actually takes actual pointed, deliberate action to grow and become a better person, a better player, and a better ball club.
Yeah.
And there's been none of that in the last 2 years. So I again just fall back on the old saying that I love so much. If you're going to keep doing what you've always done, you're going to keep getting the same result you've always gotten.
Yeah.
So until you get radically different with this roster, you're not going to see a radically different result.
Right now, best case scenario, I mean, what could we really see this team doing in the postseason? I mean, could they get past the second round?
No,
realistically,
I think the best case scenario for this team is they win one playoff series. Mm-hmm. And right now, if it ends in the 3-6, I don't even think you're going to get that far. I don't know that there's a first round matchup where you can unequivocally be like, hey, yeah, we're going to win that.
Yeah, because you don't have Memphis anymore this year, right? Like you don't have that low end team that's not going to give you trouble based on the way teams are playing right now, and that's the thing. With again, this roster, as we detailed yesterday, again, if you didn't listen to the show yesterday, go and listen to it. I mean, we talked all about the roster and its shortcomings and all that good stuff. But But I just think that the most important thing right now for this team in the big picture, not tonight, but just in the big picture, is making sure that Donovan Mitchell remains content with the plan. Because obviously he's not content with where the team is now,
At
as he
all.
shouldn't be.
No.
I don't blame him for that. And I wouldn't blame anybody for not being happy with where this team is at. But it's really, really important that the front office and Donovan Mitchell stay on the same page. And everything we've heard confirms that they're on the same page, and that Donovan has been told that they are going to change this roster and build it around him and get on with things, But I think 2 years from now, if we're still sitting here after they've burned this thing down and changed the roster, and this is still an average ass team, then I think, the conversation is going to change a little bit for Donovan Mitchell, because as he said repeatedly, he's not going to waste years of his career not winning,
Yeah, and I think if this summer doesn't go well, you're going to see Donovan looking for a trade at the deadline next year. I think I just think we just should not go there. We just should not go that far ahead. I think if you're a Jazz fan, live one game at a time.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to swing emotionally with this team. And yesterday was kind of an interesting show for me. Like, I just got fed up with the world is ending yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
The world's not ending. This team is exactly who I've been telling you this team is for 2 years. I mean, I think if you've been around this show for any modicum of time, you know that this is who we've believed this team to be. They are an average basketball team that's rapidly aging. And yesterday, this BS with Rudy Gay refusing to do media, with there's just a lack of accountability. They don't have to do that. And I think one of the things that I find so interesting is that you just understand that the Jazz realize they don't have to do anything they don't want to do. Who's going to force them to go and remake this roster? Because people are going to buy tickets. It'll be a full house tonight. There's no doubt about that. Like, if I look at what's left on the schedule for the Jazz,
yep.
Especially like looking at the names that are coming to Vivint this week, to end the season. Your Memphis tonight, your OKC tomorrow, and then Phoenix on Friday. So why wouldn't
Yeah.
My guess is Phoenix will be a madhouse on Friday. I would go, but you are. Now all of a sudden in love and going on vacations together. I would go tonight to see Memphis, but you're like, no, I need my sleep because I got to pound box all weekend. So the jackhammer's got to be well rested.
Doesn't make you feel responsible.
And then they go to Portland to finish the season. My guess is Portland won't be a very big crowd on the road. But my guess is the next 3 games there will be pretty good crowds in place to see Portland, OKC, and Phoenix.
Right.
Could be wrong. I think you're probably going to win 2 of the 4 games you have left. I think you probably beat OKC and Portland because I don't think you're going to beat Memphis tonight, and I certainly don't think you're beating Phoenix on Friday, even though I would love to see it.
Yeah.
Would love to see it. But this team does not do well on 3 games in 4 days.
No.
I'm
not sure there are a lot of teams that do.
I actually don't think that. See, and I don't look at it that way.
Uh-huh.
This team is old.
It
This
is.
team has older bodies that are not feeling it. Right now, I would expect a really good. If you're going to win Memphis or Phoenix, I would guess it's Memphis. You're coming off of 2 days of rest.
Yeah.
You're getting 2 days between games. Friday will be 3 games in 4 days, and it's 3 teams that get up and down the floor. Like you look at OKC, they might not be good, but they're not going to play slow.
Nope.
You look at Memphis, they're very good, and they're going to play up and down the floor. Phoenix is a little more plodding when Chris Paul's in the game, but that's a team that's got 5-6 different guys who can score the basketball. So
yeah,
this is a very difficult stretch. And
that's why I say I know that you're a firm believer they won't follow the plan, but I'm telling you, it's not over yet. It ain't over yet. And I know that for them to fall, it requires the Timberwolves to win games, but hey, that team's capable. They're capable. Will they do it? Probably not, but they're capable, and this is a tough stretch to end the season.
I think it's very difficult at this point of the season to remake yourself, to rebrand who you are as a ball club. I mean, you've had a day and a half of really good preparation and practice. I would expect to see better ball movement consistently throughout the first 3 quarters of this game. I would expect to have some more refined and clear defensive understanding. I really hope we don't see any zone.
Yeah.
Please don't play zone. This team is not built to play zone. I would expect to see a little more clarity in rotations. I would expect to see less Royce O'Neal. I would expect to see far more Daniel House and Juan Hertzog-Govina in
I believe you
nachos.
referenced him as Juan Hernan Nacho Cheese Gomez.
Something like that. I'm not good with pronouncing complicated names. But the point is, what I'm saying is, I just think that it's tough to remake who you are.
Yeah.
I think you can work on defensive rotations. I think you can work on ball movement. I think you can kind of hit a reset button when you have 2 days between games, which is great. But I think you are who we always knew you were. So we'll see. I don't know. But what do you think the best case scenario is?
I mean, I think the best case scenario is what you were saying. They win one playoff series, they go out in the same, the second round, just like they did last year. But I think that what's also likely to happen is worst case scenario. You get bounced in the first round. You're not happy about it. Don's all pissed off, and you're dealing with emotions. And I don't say that to be Mr. Negative, but I think, for those of you who watch every night, I think it's not far-fetched. Like, I think this Jazz team, for them to go out in the first round, they just, it's more of the same. I mean, think about it. Right now, is it Dallas right now who they'd be playing, or who is it?
No,
right
they'd be
now?
playing Golden State.
They'd be playing Golden State. So, Golden State, you're not going to beat Golden State at their place. I just can't believe that would ever take place with where this Jazz team is at. The only question is, how long can you hold them off at the Viv? That's the question. I mean, can you win both of your home games to lengthen the series?
Their speed and athleticism is terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, that, honest to goodness, when we talk about Golden State, that is one very fast team. Like, Jordan Poole's playing out of his mind. All of this is without Steph Curry, by the way, who, even if he comes back, if you see him in the first round, he's going to be a rusty Steph Curry, I would imagine. He's still going to score 20-something points a game. And you look at the way Klay Thompson was able to operate. I would expect, by the way, one of the things I would expect to see tonight is a lot of Memphis pick and roll and switching and matchups. I'd expect Rudy Gobert to be a far more voracious defender on the three-point ball off the pick and roll from the opponent. His defense on the perimeter will be better tonight. I would be stunned if it was not, because one of the things that I know that they did is they watched an extensive amount of film on how to defend the pick and roll with Rudy Gobert, because that's where they have been getting really beaten. It's not that Rudy's been singled up and guys are blowing by him, or they're getting beaten lately in the last month of this season when teams isolate Rudy into a pick and roll and he does not defend the three, whether it's Christian Wood in Houston, Jordan Poole and Klay Thompson at Golden State the other night. Like, you're just watching teams pick and roll Rudy Gobert to death. And, it'll also be interesting to see who plays for Memphis tonight. Does Jaren Jackson Jr. play tonight? John Morant's not going to play tonight. So you're gonna continue to get a Memphis team that just runs up and down the floor.
Yeah, which I think is worse for you than if Ja played.
I
honestly.
would agree.
I
would agree.
I think that the speed that Memphis plays with is a challenge for a ton of teams, and I think because of where the Jazz are at with their roster and the age, it's a bigger challenge. But I think the biggest thing here, no matter what happens, I think the biggest thing is to make sure, again, that when Donovan Mitchell hangs it up for the season and cleans out the locker and goes home, that he is feeling good about where the direction the organization is going. I know I keep coming back to this, but that's the overreaching point, because I think we can all agree, whether you like our takes or hate our takes, I think what our common ground is they're not winning a championship this year. I think we can all agree on that, and they're not even close to that conversation. So my big thing is just making sure that Don's happy, and then priority number one would be getting aggressive with the Rudy contract and putting a 3-team trade together, preferably sending him to the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and I still maintain, I was talking to a guy yesterday, and I still maintain it's Toronto. Toronto's the best fit for Rudy Gobert. I mean, you're not trading him to Dallas. That's just, there is, in no world does that make sense that you would trade Rudy Gobert to Dallas. I think, and I think it's probably, Washington's probably dead at this point. But I mean,
Yeah.
if you'd have made, and there are some people who believe the Jazz had a deal that they were talking about with Rudy Gobert, because again, as I reported at the deadline, the Jazz had conversations about trading Rudy Gobert at the deadline.
Yeah.
And they just did not want to put money into the amount of money it would have taken. But you essentially had a Pascal Siakam, Montrezl Harrell, Rudy Gobert. You had a Spencer Dinwiddie involved in that deal. Like, you had a bunch of different teams that were involved in a Rudy Gobert deal. And I'm telling you now that I would not mind a Pascal Siakam trade. I would not mind seeing Pascal Siakam wind up on this Jazz roster. I would not mind seeing other pieces that they had. I would love to have seen Montrezl Harrell be a backup center on this team.
That would have been huge.
I mean, I think that's what this team needed. And they didn't do that deal. And I'm glad the Jazz didn't make a major deal at the deadline, because you're going to get more value and you're going to, exert more leverage in the summer trading window than you are at the deadline, when people view you as a fish out of water.
Yeah.
Where you're desperate and you're trying to get fed. And I think that's why it was smart not to make a move. I am hoping, as I've been told, that they did not make a move because they wanted to really kind of hang on to what they had, give this last group its due respect to make whatever run through the playoffs they believe they can make.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the summer, they're going to completely remake this roster. And I think and again, I will just be redundant and say, I think it's Toronto. Toronto has shown interest in Rudy Gobert. Toronto has made no qualms that they are willing to make a significant alteration to their club, to get focused on defense again. I think they're learning a hard lesson on Fred VanVleet. Fred's a really good player, but he's not a guy you want to have the ball in his hand with the game on the line.
4A player, dude.
He is a 4A player. And I think they realize that they're probably not good defensively. I mean, if I look at where they are right now, they're in the 6th spot at 45-33. They're much like the Jazz. They're a good team that's not great.
Yeah.
They're a good team that's going to be a sacrificial lamb. Likely for I think Milwaukee is 3rd right now. The 3-6 would be Milwaukee and Toronto.
That's rough.
I mean, that's a really rough matchup.
Yeah.
And those, the top 4 teams in the East are set. And I think if you look at Toronto, their single biggest issue is that they give up too many points. I think they're only +3 right now, 2.5 points on the plus minus.
Yeah.
And if you look at that loss to the Heat the other night, which again, because I have no life, I watched a good part of that. One of the things that was very clear is they struggle to defend elite players. And it's because you have a guy, in Birch that doesn't give you much in the middle.
Yeah.
And I think very clearly what they're looking for is to get a difference making big, that's not going to, in my opinion, hurt you and not going to stop the development of their young players. And I think that's Rudy Gobert. I think obviously he fits in well in the culture in Canada. He's French. That culture fits him very well. Now, the whole COVID vaccination thing is probably always going to be a sticking point. And by the way, can we stop saying that when Rudy touched all the microphones to kick off COVID, that's not why there's issues with Rudy Gobert.
The coronavirus.
Can we stop saying that?
Yeah.
I just,
It's tired, bro.
it's 2 years old.
Yeah.
It's not the issue. The issue is that you have guys that just aren't a good fit. Donovan Mitchell's not going to pass the ball to Rudy Gobert. He's not. So they don't like playing together. They're not. They don't. And again, I'll just reiterate. Somebody, one of my Jazz guys yesterday said, well, why do you keep saying that they hate each other? I've never said that Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell hate each other. I have never said that. What I've said is they're like guys you go into the office, and everybody who works in an office will understand this. There's some people you like, and there's some people you coexist with. Hey, Steve. And that's about the extent of it. It's, hey, Rudy. That's about the extent of it. They don't hate each other. They're not friends. They don't hang out. They don't play vids together. They don't go out to dinner together. They show up and they're in the same locker room. That is what it is.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But I look at what Rudy's fit is, and I'm just guessing that Scotty Barnes is not going to be traded by the Toronto Raptors. That'd be shocking to me.
Yeah.
But there's two names on that roster that make a lot of sense. Gary Trent Jr. and Pascal Siakam are absolutely two guys that you would value highly on this team. And to me, if you can get a third team involved and they have a Montrezl Harrell, which Washington did, it makes a lot of sense to put that money together, send Rudy out, send a draft pick out, send a secondary player like Boyan Bogdanovic, send him out, and let Pascal Siakam play in the Boyan Bogdanovic role. How much better is this team if Pascal Siakam is there instead of Boyan Bogdanovic?
That's a lot more length, I can tell you that.
It's a lot more athletic ability, it's a lot more defense, and it's a lot more dynamic and diversity in the offense.
Yeah.
That's a guy that can get his own shot, right? So it just makes more sense. Dallas, to this day, has made zero sense to me. I've asked 1,000 people about it, and not one person is like, oh, yeah, Dallas makes a lot of sense. Here's why.
Yeah, you're not trading to Dallas, dude.
Because one, the money doesn't work. You would need, I think if you were moving Rudy Gobert to Dallas, it's not going to be for Luka Doncic. So many Jazz fans are like, oh, we'd take Luka. They're not giving up Luka Doncic. Not for Rudy Gobert. Stop. For nobody. So you're looking at who are the role players that would come in return. If I'm the Jazz, I'd have to have Tim Hardaway Jr. I'd have to have one of their longer bigs.
Powell.
So probably a Dwight Powell.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to have Dorian Finney-Smith. Are you going to give up those three guys for Rudy Gobert and $12 to $15 million in cash, plus a first-round pick, and then you got to go find a third? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's like a 7-player deal with 3 teams, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me because you're not going to go get like a Toronto to be involved in a Dallas-Utah deal because like that doesn't make any sense for Toronto because then Rudy winds up in Dallas, and what does Toronto get? You have to think through things logically.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm just going to stick to what I've repeatedly heard. The Jazz are not going to trade Donovan Mitchell. The Jazz are going to rebuild this team around him. They are going to add athletic guys on the wing, and they're going to trade Rudy Gobert. And I will stand by that, and I will continue to say I believe Toronto is a front runner to get Rudy Gobert. I've been saying it for weeks and months. I think that's the logical fit. Let's see. Brandon Whiteside says Rudy to Atlanta for Collins and picks. I like John Collins, but he is a guy that is limited. There's a reason that a young team like Atlanta is willing to trade their young big. There's a reason.
But he can play faster. He can do some things for you.
He's a better fit depending on what you put around him. John Collins is not a guy you go looking for. John Collins is a guy that you're okay having on your roster if Pascal Siakam is there, if Gary Trent is there, if Tim Hardaway Jr. is there.
Yeah.
He's not the guy you're like, oh man, if we can get him, that's not to me that's I'm not trading Rudy Gobert for John Collins in picks. That doesn't. And by the way, nobody's giving you picks for Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
You're in the Rudy Gobert trade you are hoping for a net split. You're hoping that, hey, I'm going to send you Rudy Gobert money and a future first round pick. Yeah, give me Pascal Siakam and you're
trying to break even.
You're hoping to level there.
Yeah.
You're likely going to lose.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to send money. You're going to have to be creative to compensate whoever winds up with Rudy. You're going to have to compensate them for his contract. It is not inarguable that it's one of the worst contracts in the NBA. I've tried not to say that out loud because he is a really good player. He is an impactful player. But it's one of the worst contracts in the NBA. It's untenable to have it on your cap if you're a championship contender, and it's untenable to have it on your cap if you're trying to rebuild.
Yeah.
And they had aspirations of one, and now they're the other. And that means they're trying to rebuild. And it's just, man, it's really tough.
It's rough. Yeah.
Because you'd love to send him to a rebuilder like an OKC, an Orlando. But the problem is Orlando is a throw-in team. They're not a primary team. And what value, because any team you send Rudy to, there's going to have to be significant value. There's going to have to be a Pascal Siakam.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to have to be like a Dorian Finney-Smith and a Tim Hardaway who instantly make you better. They instantly fill a need. Like an OKC doesn't do that. And, you know, like you're not like their best player. I don't know who their best player probably is. Like, you know, SGA is probably not, they're not trading him. Or
Giddey is pretty good. Giddey's pretty good, but they're not going to trade him either.
Giddey's a fabulous young player.
Yeah,
he is a fabulous
but you're not
going to
move that guy. I mean,
no,
if
you're more
you know?
likely to move a Lou Dort, who you already have that on this team. Like they're
But
just.
I will say that Lou Dort would be an upgrade to Royce O'Neal, in my opinion. I think that Lou Dort is a younger guy who's still got that young guy energy, can play good defense, can play really good defense. Actually, he's one of the better defenders in the league, no doubt. Offensively, that's kind of the question mark. You know, you'd have to see how he would kind of fit in and translate into this team. But again, we can go round and round, right? We can go through like a million trade scenarios. The point is they're going to trade Rudy Gobert. It's going to happen, and you just have to see what you get back.
Yeah. All right. Let's get through some comments because you guys matter to us. We really appreciate that you're here every day. And I just want to say thank you. The audio podcast has had 3 days of just amazing performance. Like I don't know if we just hit somebody's algorithm. I have no idea. But we've had 3 days of just incredible from Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Odyssey, wherever you listen to our podcast. I just want to say thank you. Stitcher, certainly, because the audio podcast is just dominant. And this YouTube channel is growing. We're over 3,700 now, which means we've picked up over 100 subscribers in the last week. Like, you guys are amazing. And we just really appreciate the support that you guys give this show. James Knight says, "What's up, mofos?
What's up?"
We said something nice about another Australian. Does this release the 4X gold like that you owe us? Force G says, "Morning." Funky Orion says, "Hi."
Hello.
Hey, buddy. Funky says, "Good day. Jazz is less likely to win versus the Grizzlies. I won't keep my hopes too high, but hoping for the best." There you go. Exactly.
I think that's proper.
Brylark, what the heck? Where you been? Good to see you, buddy. He says, "Morning, boys. How hopeful are we that Rudy gets traded in the offseason?" I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
Gabe Ledley, my dudes. What's up, Gabe? Good to see you. Jesus Christ destroys atheism.
My guy.
It's not on your birth certificate. Says there is a number of teams that are already saying that they have interest in trading for Rudy Gobert. Depending on what they can offer, this might be a 3-team deal if it happens.
God bless.
More power to you, man. More power to you. And I heard some wild stuff yesterday. Oh, the Lakers are going to trade and the Bulls, DeMar DeRozan to the Jet. Like, stop. You're not going to get a star player. You're not going to get another team's best player for Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
You're not. The rumors being thrown around yesterday, the teams that I've heard most predominantly are the Chicago Bulls, the Toronto Raptors, and the Dallas Mavericks. And I think, like, think about what the Bulls in a third team would be able to bring to the Jazz. Because I think on the Bulls, you could probably pluck Zach LaVine out of there.
Dude, come on.
And if you threw in Alex Caruso.
Thank you, dude. Thank you.
On Dallas, they don't have a star player that they're going to give you in return. And they're a major rival of yours. Do you want to see Rudy Gobert 5-6 times a year wearing a different uniform?
No, I'm good.
Probably not. And I go to Toronto. I go to, like, one of the other teams that has been talked about a lot is the Miami Heat. And I think that's just nonsense. Like, what are the Miami Heat going to do with Rudy Gobert? They're not going to trade Bam for Rudy. Why would they do that?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make any sense. I think that comes out of all the Donovan Mitchell rumors because Donovan Mitchell's athletic guy, his body guy is there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Jesus, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know. We'll see. I think it's going to be interesting. Morning, fellas. Good morning, Rudy. Greg Hawkins, what's up? He says, Monty, I don't want the PS5, but if you send me a shirt, I'll promote it in the show on my platforms. Send me a DM.
Need an address, buddy.
Send me a DM.
Also,
Happy to do it.
Also need a size. Just saying.
Yeah, happy to do it.
Do you lift?
Steve Hambone says, good morning, boys. Heard any more about Coach Quinn or Rudy being traded? I think Quinn Snyder is going to be the coach next season. I truly, him and Ryan Smith, from what I understand, have a great working relationship. So I would be really surprised if they fired Quinn Snyder.
Yeah.
I'd be really surprised. That would, I'm not saying it's not happening. I just think I think Quinn will be here. Did I see a Woj report Mitchell is seeking a trade, James Knight said?
No.
Not that I'm aware of.
No, there was a fake God, I can't remember the name of the Twitter account. It's a fake Twitter account, basically. It's like where they make like fake Woj accounts or fake, those kind of type of accounts on Twitter. Basically was saying that Don wanted to go to Miami and that he basically NBA Central, that's what it was called. NBA Central, a fake NBA Central Twitter account, tweeted yesterday that Donovan Mitchell, was requesting a trade officially and that Woj had reported that. I went through Woj's timeline and checked. He didn't report that. It's complete garbage.
Yeah, that NBA Central account, I think, was taken down.
Yeah.
The legit NBA Central account is there.
Yeah.
The fake NBA Central account is not.
Yeah. So
which happens all the time. I mean, you got to take that stuff with a grain of salt. There's a fake Adam Schefter account that's gotten countless stories broken.
But that's actually funny. I think that's funny. When they do that, that's funny.
I don't think it's funny. But that's just me. Gabe says, things are bad when Jazz fans are making the stop the count argument to protect their fragile psyches.
Too bad.
Stop the count, Gabe. Why would you bring such dishonor to Jazz fans? Well, mainly because they tried to stop the count legitimately. Jonathan Ponce says good morning. And Garcia says morning. Jeff Johnson says good morning, my guys. What's up, Jeff? Good to see you. James Knight says the money Rudy got paid changed the way he judged it. Changed the way he was judged. It didn't change him. Well, I mean, with money comes great expectation.
And I think it should have. I think on some level, it should have changed him. I mean, I think on some level, as an NBA player, like when you get paid, you have to understand that it doesn't just mean that you can go and buy a Ferrari now. Like,
yes, that's right.
It means that, hey, we're paying you and trusting in you that you will help carry us to that next level. And so when that doesn't happen, things go sideways really fast. So, yeah, I mean, I agree. It did change the way people looked at him, and he did not change, but he should have changed for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. James Knight, I don't think you're wrong. I just think it's philosophical. Eric and Raleigh says, good morning, gentlemen. Caleb says, Jazz need a new offensive scheme. Play great for 3 quarters, can't hold leads. So sad. Yeah, and I got that same DM where they were like, oh, hey, if the Jazz ended the game after 3 quarters, they'd be undefeated in the
Donnie, you're out of your element.
history of the NBA. And it's like, why do people put that stat together? Well, if the game ended after 3 quarters, it doesn't. And people get pissed when I say that. Like somebody will send me, hey, please comment on this. And my comment is, well, the game doesn't end after 3 quarters, so what do you want me to say? I'm not trying to be a dick about it, but the game doesn't end after 3 quarters.
Yeah.
The stat is meaningless.
Like
I think they're an older team that runs out of gas late in games.
Yeah.
I think they've had quite a few guys that have missed time this year. Rudy, Don, Bogey, Mike is healthy. He's been rested. I look at, unfortunately, Royce has missed no games this year.
Buckets O bench.
I should probably stop. And Garcia says, if I'm correct about the Jazz falling to the 6th, then maybe into the play-in, plus Quinn being out after the Jazz lose in the first round, no Mamba Mitchell ending up in New York, you should hook me up with a PS 6 or 7.
Okay, next comment.
James Knight says, I'm sick of hearing how Donovan feels he needs to just take care of his own performance because his game is far from perfect. No, but what Donovan Mitchell, I think, realizes is that he has got to improve. The one thing you can never question about Donovan Mitchell is, A, I think he's very self-aware, and B, I think he realizes that he has got to add to his repertoire.
Yeah.
He knows that and you can see him trying to work that mid-range in more and more because it just is cash money in this league right now. And I think Donovan knows that he's become too one-dimensional from 3. So, and his 3-point shot is fantastic. I mean, the range on his three, like somebody, I can't remember who sent the podcast now, but somebody sent me a podcast yesterday of a group of casuals.
You're a casual.
Talking about, yeah, like talking about Donovan Mitchell and that he stopped evolving and developing. And it drives me crazy when people are like, oh, he stopped developing.
It's just not true.
Like, how on God's green earth do you watch Donovan Mitchell last year, this year, 2 years ago, this year, and say he hasn't developed or improved at all? Like even just his game in the paint, like has completely changed. Like his Euro step is dominant at this point. You know, like his 3-point range is exponentially further. So I think he is absolutely developing. No Mamba, and Garcia says.
Cool.
But who is Mamba? Like, there's no other Mamba. There never will be. Jeremy Boatman says, well, if it isn't Monty and Jake. Morning, fellas. Good morning, Jeremy.
You're a casual.
Do you have your headband on? Eric says, and the Jazz will sell out the 2 games they host in the first round. They will. Let's see. Caleb says 2 for 2 for sure. I don't see them beating the Grizzlies or the Suns. That's an interesting conversation. Teddy Wayman, good morning to you. James Knight says you're not suggesting they've waited until April to watch film on Rudy defending the pick and roll. No.
No, I'm saying that Rudy Gobert has waited till April to start listening. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean they have been working with Rudy since. I mean, this has been a point of emphasis from what I understand at practice since February.
Yeah.
Early February.
Yeah.
But the problem is you don't get to practice much in the NBA. I think there's a misnomer that every day you don't play games that you're practicing. That is not the case.
There was a tweet yesterday. I don't remember who put it out, but basically there was a tweet yesterday that said the Jazz have had like 5 practices since the new year.
Yeah.
Like, they just don't practice.
When do you have time? You're constantly playing 3 games in 5 days. You're playing every other day in this league.
You're traveling.
You have not had a consistent practice schedule for the past 3 seasons. I mean, last year you had a compressed season because of COVID. The year before was the year you lost most of the season to COVID and played in the bubble.
Yeah.
And now this year you're just seeing that. I think what people forget is that a lot of the injuries you're seeing this year and a lot of the legs being heavy is because we're coming out of COVID where you played until September and then you started the season right back up in November. Then you're going into a season that's compressed. You're fitting a bunch of games into a small window, and then you're playing an Olympic tournament. So you're playing all of these games, and guys like Don and Rudy and guys that have been in the Olympic cycle, they've made playoff runs. They've played 2 playoff series the last couple of years. Like Donovan's had a major ankle injury that I still don't think he's 100% from. You just look at all of this wear and tear. You can't practice. Yeah. They have had less than a dozen practices in the last 2 regular seasons. That's how little they practice. So if you are not self-developing and if you are not self-aware, you are not improving. And Rudy Gobert, for lack of a better phraseology, thinks his shit doesn't stink on defense. Rudy Gobert thinks he is the baddest defender in the world. And so when you say to him, hey man, you got to step up on the pick and roll, and he won't, what are you supposed to do with that? You're paying him $41 million a year. What are you supposed to do when your highest paid player by a lot won't step up on the pick and roll? What are you supposed to do with Rudy Gobert in Houston when he drop steps to the basket and leaves Christian Wood an uncontested look at a 3? What are you supposed to do against the LA Clippers when Terrence Mann dunks on him, 5 possessions later blocks his shot, and he still won't step up on the pick and roll?
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do with that?